lot about the greatest generation, and it was played up a lot about the greatest generation. And I often wonder, who were they talking about? They talked about the greatest generation. You ever hear Bill Davis Jr.? He was the first Air Force general, black Air Force general, and he was the son of Bill Davis Sr., who was the first black Army general, a U.S. general. And he had to have an appointment from a congressman to get into West Point, and there was one black congressman, I think it was out of Chicago. He nominated Bill Davis Jr. for West Point, and he went to West Point. But all the time he was in West Point, 4 years he was in West Point. I think he graduated in 1938, 1939. He never had any social contact with any cadet. Nobody talked to him. He went to mess hall. There was always a seat on the right and left of him. Nobody sat next to him. 4 years he went through this, and he graduated. He was in the top 15% of his class. He went later on to form the Tuskegee Airmen, and he led the 99th Fighter Division, who protected bombers that went on bombing runs in Germany and so forth. And he would always say, I understand he told the pilots, his fighter pilots, if you lose a plane, don't you come back. Well, they didn't lose any planes. And I read later where there was a white bomber pilot said that he never knew that those were black guys that was flying those planes. He said, but they always wanted those Red Wings to be with them because they know those Red Wings stayed with them to and from the targets. And it was the generals, the people that went to West Point with the general, with Bill Davis Jr. when he was in West Point, they learned, they turned to be, in World War II, they were the officers, the colonels and generals in the war. And they took their bigotry and prejudices along with them in World War II. These were the greatest generations. In England, they tried to get the bars and the dance halls from admitting black troops, but it didn't work. The English admitted black troops, as they should. They said, no, everybody is welcome. As long as he's wearing the uniform and coming in, he's welcome. But there it was, the greatest generation that wanted to deny. And there's another thing that stuns me still. I had a Austrian lady that was working with me in one of the embassies in Paraguay, and she said her brother was a captured prisoner of war. He was fighting with the Germans, but he had been captured, and he was a prisoner of war. And they were transporting him and some more German prisoners. And the guards were black, and the drivers of the trucks were black. And they said they came upon a camp where they had to disembark to let them out, and they went in. He said the German troops, the German prisoners, he and all the rest of them could go into the mess hall and eat, but the black guards and the black drivers could not go into the mess hall. They had to go around back and be served around back. She said her brother never understood this, how they were treated better than the people that were guarding them. And that was a fact. And that stunned me. And I later learned that was true. That the Germans, and I read another story of where a black guy, airman, had been captured. He said the only time he felt equal was when he was in a German prison camp, because he was treated just like everybody else in a German prison camp. He said there was hell to pay, they paid it all together. But he said that was the only time he felt equal. And I knew people who came back from World War II when I was a kid in West Palm Beach. But some of the men would come into the store and they'd be talking about, man, it was great being in England. I wish I could have stayed there and everything. He said, and most of them said, all of them said, that was the first time they'd ever interacted with a white person on a social level. They had never in their life interacted with a white person on a social level where they could go into one place and they could sit and they could drink and where white people would be all around. That happened overseas, but it wouldn't happen in the States. And it didn't happen around the base camps where the troops were being trained. It was always separate. And there was base camps that were stationed throughout Arizona and Texas and throughout the South. Those training camps, they were segregated, same as they were in Europe or wherever. And when you see a movie, you never see a movie with a black guy fighting in the war as if they never fought in the war. Well, there were blacks who went on the Normandy invasion. There were blacks. There was one case of a black that was written up for Congressional Medal of Honor. He was a corpsman. He was running up and down the beach, trying to save lives, being shot at and everything. He was written up for Congressional Medal of Honor. Never got it. There were blacks who were in those what they call those balloon outfits that had the balloons up in the air to keep the enemy planes from flying in to do any destruction on the troops. All of those, that was black troops that was in those balloon outfits with white officers, but they were all black. You never read or you never hear about this. It was just all the great generation. You never, even in the Navy didn't have any black people doing anything but what the Filipinos were doing, the serving and cleaning up for the officers and so forth. And there was this one guy who dropped his broom, I guess, and he started shooting during 1941 when the Pearl Harbor, where he started shooting and shot down a couple of Japanese planes. But that wasn't his job. He was supposed to be in the kitchen somewhere. But he got out of there, and I guess said he saved his officer, and then went to the gun and started firing. But that was the way it was. You don't hear about this, about blacks doing anything during the World War II. Speaking of movies, I used to go see movies twice a week. And I bet I saw every movie that they ever made that anyone under 18 could see. In fact, I even sneaked in and saw some of the ones that were over 18. And they weren't that. Today, you would let a 10-year-old go see it. But anyway, that was the way it was. And I remember the first movie that our teachers in school told us, you got to go see this movie. It's called Homer the Brave with James Edwards. It's the first movie that we've seen that with the black actor playing as an equal in a movie. He's playing a very good role. First time. You got to see this movie. So I went and saw it, and it was a good movie. I remember Lord Bridges and some more, but James Edwards was the black actor that was in it. And I was wondering whatever happened to James Edwards. I don't know, he just sort of, he made one other movie, there wasn't much, then he sort of disappeared. He was a very educated guy going to Northwestern. I read about him in Jet. He had finished at Northwestern University. He did some stage plays, and he was very good, a very good actor, well educated, good looking guy, everything. But I understand I think I read in Jet, where he said he was having some kind of affair with an actress, a white actress, and that sort of killed him. because that wasn't supposed to happen. Uh, it, you didn't have interracial marriages, interracial, anything that was interracial, they just cut. No, you weren't. They wouldn't go any further. But then, so he didn't go that far. And then they had Sidney Poitier. But with James Everett, I thought, man, I want to be an actor. I want to be an actor. And I thought about it. And then Sidney Poitier came on. And as I got a little older, I started realizing that, hey, there was only one role. There was only one actor out there, Sidney Poitier. So you're wasting your time. So I didn't have the courage to go on and finish and try to become an actor. Till later I started doing it after I retired. I started doing it because it was something I wanted to do. But I was discouraged from doing it when I was in high school and college because there was only one actor, and that was Sidney Poitier. And every role they played that had a black actor in it was Sidney Poitier. But James Everett was the first one. Well, we had Hattie McDaniel. She won an Oscar for Gone with the Wind. But I understand when they nominated her, when she got the award, she was so far back up in the stands, up in the building, that it took them 5 or 10 minutes to walk down to the stage to get the award. But she was it. She won. She played in a couple of more movies as Mama, Mammy, or whatever. But they didn't have the real black person. And cowboy movies. I used to love cowboy movies. John Wayne and Randolph Scott and Durango Kid. All those movies. I used to go see all of them. I never saw a black actor. Not one. Never saw one. And I thought, oh, can a black ride a horse? But no. And then I read later that during the West, some 25-30% of cowboys were black. They were on wagons, on trains, trail herds. They did everything that the white actor did in the movie, but you never saw them. And then at one year we had a black guy come, and he during halftime of our football game, he had a horse, and he rode up and down that field about 3 times, doing all kind of tricks on that horse. He would go from one side to the other on that horse while that horse was at a full gallop. He'd ride side saddle like he was shooting behind, you know, the horse was running one way and he was facing the other way. He was doing all kind of tricks on that horse. And I thought, oh man, how is that? And I got a chance to talk to him, and he said, oh yeah, we always had black cowboys. We always had black men riding horses, riding cow herds and all of the things that the white man did. He said, no, that was always where it was. I never saw it in the movie. So they never played it. I never saw a Randolph Scott or John Wayne movie that had a black man in it. And I went to every movie that any of them ever made with the Western. But that was where it was. And it was just something that a black kid didn't see. So he never visualized himself as being able to do something like that. But I was a coward, and I didn't go forward and continue to want to be an actor and be one. But I don't regret my life because I went and did something else that was, to me, was just as amazing. And I'll tell you about that later on.